Welcome to Let Freedom Ring. My guest this week, Mike Grages. Welcome to the show.
And thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, pleasure to have you. We got recruited here by Steve Dovich, so shout out to Steve. Let's get to know you a little bit first, though. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
So I'm from Londonderry. I grew up just outside of Boston, moved up to Londonderry when I was 13. Some people say it's not all the way grown up, but you know what I mean. Lived in Londonderry, went to high school there, which is where I met Steve Dovich. Hey, Stevie. And then lived around New Hampshire. When my wife and I had kids, we were like, you know what? We liked growing up in Londonderry. Let's go back. So that's where we are now.
Awesome. No, Londonderry is a great town. Yeah, I can't say enough about it. Now, what are 3 things that everybody should know about you?
Everybody should know, first and foremost, I am an absolute passionate hockey fan, like fan of the game itself. And I love to share that with people. Second, I go by the nickname Mop.
Mop, okay.
For the hair, which I've had in several stages over my life, but going back to when I was a teenager and hanging out with Stevie in high school. And third, I guess would be that I am a huge animal lover.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's probably another key trait of me. So
Very cool. Do you have any pets yourself?
yes, 3 dogs and 4 cats.
Oh, wow.
So
Full house.
Yeah, full house. And the pandemic turned me into quite a bird nerd too. So
Okay.
I've got like a dozen bird feeders around
Really?
my yard.
I always wanted to get into bird watching because, like, I have noticed, like, at times I'm like, whoa, there's a blue jay. It's like rare to, they're there, they're
Right.
there, but you always feel like you're seeing the birds that you're like, that's not that exciting.
It's just a pigeon. I've
Yeah.
seen a million of
Yeah.
those. And then something bright flies by and you're like, ooh.
Look at that. No, very cool. Now, sticking with the theme of the show, which is Let Freedom Ring, we ask every guest this because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What does it mean to you to be an American? I know it's a loaded question.
Yeah. So to be an American, I believe, is to be willing to allow yourself and the people around you to live their life the way that they want to, because that is why we started the country. So
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I mean, you do find like everybody, especially on Facebook, it's like, and I know that's just how social media is, and I love social media. Everybody knows that. I mean, it's how we promote the show. This is how we stay in touch with people. But you do get a lot of, everybody's got their opinion. But yeah, having an opinion on other people's lives is a little bit, I don't know. That's a little bit more difficult for me.
it's very politically loaded question there, or answer there, so I apologize.
No, that's fine. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I appreciate that. Now, big thing we want to talk about, and I really want to get into this because right now the hot documentary has been Woodstock '99 Trainwreck. HBO Max also covered this, so we wanted to do an episode on Woodstock '99 because I've been absolutely obsessed. So you were there. First, I just want to know, how old were you, and how did you decide you wanted to go?
So I was 19 at the time. It was my freshman year of college. I had no money, and I saw the set list, and I was like, oh, I need to go. I need to go. When am I going to get a chance to go again? I didn't have the cash. So my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and my buddy Dave split the cost of the ticket for me. And they were like, yeah, all right, here you go. Go have fun. And so me and my buddy Dave and some of his friends packed up a van and headed off.
Now, you said you're in college at this time. How far was this drive? Because it's where, I forget when New York it was. It was on the base.
Rome, New York.
Okay, so how long was that for you?
It was, let's say, like a 6-hour drive.
Okay.
And there's 8 of us crammed into a minivan with all of our stuff for the 3-day weekend crammed in there. So it was a long, uncomfortable ride, but we were so excited to be headed to Woodstock, we didn't care.
Oh, very cool. Now, I got to ask this because this is a big festival. I think when the first Woodstock happened, my dad might have been around the same age. He didn't go to Woodstock. I think he went to whatever was next. But what did your parents think when you said this? Like, I'm going to Woodstock '99.
My parents would have gone to Woodstock if they could have, so
Okay.
they were both very cool with me going. My dad was actually really jealous because he loves a lot of the same music that I do, or
Okay.
I love a lot of the same music that he does more accurately, and so he would have enjoyed the music there as well. So
Okay.
they're
Now, very
very
cool.
supportive.
Because I do remember, so like, and you said you liked the set list. Now, at the time, I was in 8th grade. I knew about the original Woodstock just because my dad's a musician. So I've known about Woodstock and what happened since I was a kid. I remember seeing the set list and going, it doesn't feel like what the original Woodstock was. Did you think about that at all as you were going?
At the time, nah, I was 19. I was just excited to go see some good music.
Okay.
Sitting back and watching the documentary the other day, I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, of course it went the way it did. Look at the bands you got. That's not your peace and love kind of audience. But at the time, I was just like, sick. I get to go see Rage Against the Machine and Metallica on the same night. Let's go.
Yeah.
So we went.
It was crazy because if you do watch the documentary, Jonathan Davis says, we're not hippies. That's not our thing.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Like he even knew it as he's up there performing. He's like, this is not Woodstock.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was still amazing to him. Like I loved seeing his reaction about the crowd because the crowd was insane. It was just so much energy. And he talks about it a little bit in the documentary of going out and just seeing the crowd move as one and like the waves as the music goes through the back. It felt like that. You could feel like the palpable energy, and no matter how tired you were at the time that something like that happened, it was 90 degrees, 100 degrees every day while we're there on tarmac, baking in the sun. So by the time one of the night bands comes on, you're exhausted. But then, that first, in the case of Korn, that guitar riff started, and it was just like instant. Everybody stopped what they were doing and became one. It was so cool.
Now, in the documentary, and I do want to get into the other questions, but this is good here because this is a big part of it. They do the rift. Security in their minds are going, oh shit, what are we going to do here? Where are you in this sea of, are you like right and dead in the middle? Or are you?
So if you're looking out from the stage, and my wife kept asking the questions, well, where were you? Where were you?
Yeah.
If you're looking out from the stage, the main tower, the speaker tower that eventually they pulled down, we were pretty much every show we were just to the left of that.
Okay.
When Korn came on, that was the first like big mosh pit of the festival, and so we pressed up to get up into the mosh pit, and then very quickly realized like this isn't a high school dance mosh pit, and like backed out, and then had to pull the girls that were with us out and push them back to get them further away, and then we stayed a little bit further back after that. But we always had a great spot like right next to the tower. You could see everything on stage, and like from where we were, it was just like a little bit of a slope down, so you could kind of, if you like turned around, you could see like a good chunk of the crowd. So like you could see it when everybody like started jumping at the same time. It was really cool.
So because I looked at it and I was like, I had like anxiety looking at that, being like, I don't want to be in that. But there was room for you to kind of move away from it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was, everybody, there wasn't like seats, there wasn't rows. People were just pressing in. So it was tough navigating through there. Now, old, I probably would be a little freaked out going and doing it. I said to my wife, gee, maybe this is why watching that Game of Thrones episode where Jon Snow's all smushed under the army, why that kind of gave me a little PTSD. So, looking back now, I'm like, I can't believe I did that. But at the time, I was 19. I thought I was invincible. So I was like, yeah, let's go have fun.
True, you're right. I probably would have looked at that at that age like, that's so cool. Who were you there to see most? What were the bands that you were really? I know you said Metallica and Rage Against the Machine. Were there others?
So the bands I was most excited to see was the Saturday night lineup. It was Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, and Metallica. There were a bunch of other bands that we were happy to go see, but that was like who we really wanted to see. We arrived a little bit late. So we missed the opening act, which was James Brown.
Okay.
And looking back now, that's the one act that I wish I had seen, because I never saw James Brown live. Now he's passed away. Like the opportunity to see him open Woodstock would have been incredible. We were just late getting there.
Well, it's wild to think it's like James Brown's playing. Next thing you know, you got all these other bands coming on there. Nothing like him.
Exactly.
You know.
And that was, you talked about, the difference in the style of music versus, what Woodstock, the original Woodstock was. There was almost like no rhyme or reason to the music that was at Woodstock 99. You had like popular bands, you had rock bands, you had heavy metal bands, you had a little bit of everything. There wasn't like that cohesive, belief or idea behind any of it. It was, and they talk a lot about it in the documentary. It was driven by greed, not
it was trying to
driven
make
by
money.
the idea of Woodstock.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's kind of the thing, too, though, is like we're talking about 30 years and music had changed so much. One of the things in the HBO one I really did disagree was they're like, oh, you don't get Limp Bizkit and all these bands if Kurt Cobain didn't die. I'm like, I think they would have coexisted with Nirvana, too.
Exactly, yeah. Like, Kurt Cobain's death certainly shot Nirvana up and brought more attention to grunge, but look at all the other grunge bands that were around and were already big at that time. Like, all those other bands came from that. Kurt Cobain was an amazing artist, but he didn't launch grunge by himself. He didn't launch alt rock by himself. It was part of that whole early 90s, mid 90s movement.
No, I totally agree. I think sometimes when you do watch documentaries, you get these points of view that you're like, I don't agree with that one.
Right, exactly.
Now I want to get into this. There's just so much that we can talk about with this, and we're gonna hit on everything that we can. What's the atmosphere walking in? Now, they're saying they're taking away water and stuff like that. Is there truth to that, or what is like? You're walking in, you're excited. What's the security checkpoint like?
Oh yeah, so the security checkpoint was a mess getting in because there were so many people trying to get in at the same time, and by the time we got in, because we were late, I think we lucked out. They went through some of our stuff and took away some of our water, but they didn't bother to go through everything. I think they were just trying to get us through at that point.
Okay.
We had like a soft top Thule on top of the van, and I had just taken it off the van and strapped it onto my back and used that as the backpack. And so we took like the waters out and gave them to other people. And I had all the like clothes and sleeping bags and stuff in there. So if I'd been smart, I would have just kept all the water in there because they'd like opened it up, took a peek, and just shut it. Like, just go, please, just move.
Hey, that's, I mean, because I was just like, could you really, that many people be able to take water from everybody? Like, that sounds like tough. Did you guys get your own food in? Like, so we know the concessions were pretty heavy. How did you guys, you're 19 years old,
As I said, I didn't have any money to buy the ticket.
What'd you guys do for, like, were you able to buy food? Did you get food in? Like, how are you surviving day by day?
So day one, like everybody gets there and they basically took everybody's stuff away. Like we had some snacks and stuff that we were able to hang on to. They realized pretty quickly though that wasn't going to be a feasible way of supporting the festival because by day two they had set up a bus system where they had school buses that would take you to the town to go to like the grocery store.
Oh, okay.
And then come back. And so day two, after Saturday night, which was Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, Metallica, we finish up and we go back to our tent, which was unfortunately very close to the rave hangar.
Oh, I want to get into that for sure.
Yeah. And on the Woodstock documentary, Fatboy Slim talks about the exact point where I decided I wasn't going to sleep when he starts talking about the song he played at the beginning. Yeah. And if you'll remember, you'll know why I'm not addressing any more of it.
Language thing.
Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not getting to sleep because this is right here, so I'm going to go into town. I'm going to go.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go get on one of these buses. I'm going to take a ride into town. So I get in a line. It's a big, long line. Tons of people. There's state police walking up and down the lines, taking drugs from people, like making sure everybody's behaving. In line for about 45 minutes or so. Finally, I get on a bus. Bus driver pulls out, gets on the intercom and goes, "Listen, I know that you've all been waiting for this moment and that they weren't letting you do anything in line. So close up the windows and smoke them if you got them."
Oh, really?
So me at 19, never having experienced any of that before, I get into town with the money that all my friends had given me, and I proceeded to spend it all on Gatorade, Hostess cupcakes, and potato chips. I came back with massive bags full of these things.
Yeah.
So everybody was happy at least about the Gatorade, but they're like, dude, we can't live on Hostess cupcakes and potato chips for the rest of the festival.
Yeah. See, that's something that was not talked about in either documentary, that they were taking people into town and because the way the documentary is all set up is that you had to just buy food there, which I'm like, that just doesn't seem possible for that many people. Was the food thing more of an issue of just like people didn't want to go all the way back to their tent?
It was a pain to get into the town.
Okay.
So like, I went at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was still a 45-minute wait to get into town, to get onto the bus.
Okay.
So if you were going during the day, like there were not enough buses to make that the solution.
Got it. Okay.
And so, some people benefited from going back to the town, but the majority of the people were planning on relying on the concessions there.
Okay.
Or the food that they had brought that got tossed.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I got to ask this. We did talk about Korn already, that you were there, which is unbelievable. That must have been unreal. Tell me a little bit about day one. What's some other bands that you got to see that day?
So day one, honestly, I don't remember a ton of music about day one. I remember Korn, and I remember just being incredibly hot and uncomfortable all day. But day one was, if I remember correctly, not a ton of great bands until the evening anyway.
Okay.
So I think we mostly spent the day just kind of like wandering around and getting ourselves acclimated.
Oh, now, it was a mile between the two stages?
Yeah, it was a good distance. So I loved the fact that on the Netflix documentary, they had the map and they showed you like the exact map and where everything was. Because like, oh, okay, like we didn't have maps. They didn't give us maps at the festival.
Okay.
But like I remembered like, walking this way and like coming around corners and stuff. So like thinking back, it's like, how was it all set up? So having that map was really useful for me because like seeing the difference between where the main stage was and then it goes this way and then there's concessions and then the other stage. So yeah, you'd go all the way like this and the camping area was over here. And then, so, being able to like see it like helped me remember all of the like traveling points and like the things that happen when you're traveling from one place to another. People you run into, the things you saw, the naked people running by and that sort of stuff kind of like jogged my memory with that.
Now, how many times did you take the trek to the two stages? Multiple times, or was it like? Because I know we're going to talk about day three. I don't want to get into that just yet, but like, were you going back and forth, or?
A couple times. It really was a main stage and a secondary stage. So like the headliner bands were always on the main stage.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we would go and see like the occasional band over here if it was someone that like we really really liked. But for the most part, we stuck by the main stage.
Okay. Now you said obviously we see in the documentary we got naked people, mud people, which we're finding out wasn't much mud.
Yeah.
What did you guys make friends? Did you get to meet anybody, or did you just stay in your own group?
So we tried when we first got there to like make friends with the campsites around us, and kind of as they allude to in the documentary that frat boy mentality was pretty prevalent.
Like you really felt that, like that was accurate? Yeah.
Absolutely. And we were surrounded by a bunch of people of that frat boy mentality. So we kind of hung to ourselves, and then throughout the course of the time we were there, we actually ran into a couple people we knew briefly, but that was really it.
Now, you're 19. Like, what did you feel like the age ranges were there? Like, did you see people in their 30s there, or is it all...
Oh, yeah, it was, like, there were people that were at the original Woodstock that are now walking around naked at this Woodstock. It was, I'd say, probably, early teens to 60s, 70s. It was a huge range. It was primarily dominated by, like, college-age kids, I would say. That was most of the audience. but there was a huge range.
Yeah, because most college kids are not. It's the summer; they get
Right.
time off. Now that we talked about this, the bathroom's overflowing. That's a huge thing. The showering where you're supposed to at least clean yourself up turned into, I think, drinking water or something like that. Bathroom situation. Are you guys just like want nothing to do with it? How are you figuring that out?
Yeah, it was a nightmare. Like, you had to get up super early in the morning if you wanted to get a shower, and I mean like 5 a.m. if you wanted to get a shower. Otherwise, you were going to wait in line, or the water was going to run out, or the water would be super gross by the time you got there. Most of us didn't bother showering.
I feel like that'd be the same.
That was the first thing we gave up. Was like, listen, it's hot. We all smell. We're just all going to smell this week.
Yeah.
This weekend. That's it. Like we're not trying that. You know, you had to use the porta potties, but if you could avoid it, you did. And we luckily were, observant enough to realize that it had been really, really dry and water was in shortage. So when people started playing in the mud, we all looked around and went,
yeah, an idea.
I think I know where that came from.
Yeah.
Let's avoid that mud.
Okay, because you see in the documentary, I'm messing up words today. I don't know what it is. They're jumping in supposed mud right by the porta potties. You put two and two together, that ain't mud.
Yeah, it's not a big logical step to get there, but also consider it was Woodstock, and a lot of people didn't have the brain functioning capacity at that point in the weekend to make that step.
Now, could you tell there's a lot of people under the influence of like harder drugs than weed or alcohol?
Oh yeah. People just tripping everywhere. Like sitting down, talking to themselves, banging their heads on things, just like staring off into space, everywhere you went. And they talk about it in the documentary. People were just like, whatever you want, we've got it, and just very openly.
Yeah, the curious thing about it is how the drugs get in so easy, but you're talking about taking away stuff you need.
Right?
Yeah.
I think probably because they probably just assumed that the drugs were getting in. They weren't going to be selling the drugs. They probably cared more about the food and the water because they can make a profit on those.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do really want to get into this. Let's talk about day 2. This is where things start to get a little more hostile. How do you wake up on day 2? Because I know Limp Bizkit doesn't go on till later. I think Alanis Morissette plays that day and some other bands. Tell me what it is before Limp Bizkit, then I want to get into all hell breaking loose.
So before Limp Bizkit, we slept as much as we could. I think we dragged ourselves out of our tent around like 12:30 or 1 o'clock, foraged for some food and water, and then started to wander over towards the stage around like 2 or 3. There were a handful of acts beforehand that we were like, oh yeah, they'll be good to see. We saw a couple bands that were pretty decent. And then we left the main stage, went back, did another round of like water and everything to prepare, and then went and pushed ourselves up as far as we could get, and kind of in that same spot up next to the tower for when we got to Limp Bizkit. Now, during that day, it was so hot. It was like, I think it was probably 90 something, but it's all flat, wide open. It's on an old Air Force base on the tarmac. There's no greenery, there's no shade, there's no free water. At this point, I think waters were $4 or $6 a bottle, and they kept going up as the weekend went on. And so, like, everybody's sunburned, everybody's tired, everybody's hot, everybody's getting angry. And you just kind of feel it walking around. Like, it didn't have the happy vibe that day 1 had. Like, people were definitely starting to get on each other's nerves. Like, you see a handful of, like, fist fights break out as you're walking around. And, you know, at the time you didn't think much of it. You're like, oh, whatever, everybody's hot and tired. Like, you know, a bunch of drunken idiots. Didn't think anything of it until Saturday night.
All right, so Limp Bizkit gets on stage. I don't even remember what they started with, but it gets, let's say, you could feel this going on. If you don't know, anybody that's watching this, if you didn't grow up in the 90s or you don't know what break stuff is, it is like the ultimate especially at that, that younger age where you're like, I am pissed off, they start playing that. Are you feeling, you got all these people and you know this song.
Yep.
What's going through your mind?
So the thing is, and this is where I admit, I've got the privilege of being a dude, so I don't have to think about myself in the same manner that
Which
women
was a real
do,
problem, yeah.
which for me was lucky. And B, the fact that I'm 19 and think I'm invincible. I just looked around and was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
The whole crowd is just headbanging and jumping and slamming at the same time. And then as he's singing break stuff, people started breaking off wood.
Started breaking stuff.
They started breaking stuff. They started breaking off wood from the audio tower.
Yeah.
That was right there. And they're ripping off these huge pieces of plywood. And then they started passing them around the crowd. And people were getting up on top and dancing. And they're like spraying people with stuff. And people are getting naked up on top. And people are like, doing whatever they can up there. They're asking people for drinks and drinking beers and like pouring it on the audience. And that was like a huge spectacle in and of itself. So now we're watching the band and now we're watching what's going on like all over the crowd. It's
okay.
like, it was just overwhelming and amazing. And at that point, like the holy crap, something bad is going to happen hadn't kicked in.
Okay.
It was still just look, it's some drunk idiots breaking some things. But look, this is wicked fun.
Yeah.
Everybody's on top of the crowd now. And it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. I'd been to concerts before. I'd seen people body surfing, but I'd never seen people standing on top of a thing of plywood on top of the crowd. And I was like, this is freaking cool.
Yeah. Now he starts going, I think he says something like, when this kicks in, I want you to, blank kick in. Could you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And like, it was one of those moments, and there was a handful full of them over the course of the weekend. It was one of those moments where the audience kind of all moved at once.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, when this kicks in, and then it kicked in, and everybody just like inhaled and just started like, the mosh pit grew huge. People that were like banging on the wood and ripping the wood like went crazy, and everyone else was just jumping, and it was insane. And the energy was just electric at that point.
I've been watching that video because I've watched it 1,000 times now. I'm like, this is crazy, absolutely crazy. And at one point, Fred Durst does Faith on the plywood,
right?
Yeah.
And so like, we're losing our mind. Like,
Yeah.
This is the coolest thing we've ever seen. This guy's on top of the crowd right now. We're not thinking of the safety aspect of it. We're thinking of, this is a show. Like, this band is putting on an awesome show right now.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like, I keep looking at it as like, I have to, you watch this documentary, and I'm looking at it as a 38-year-old. Very different than actually being there, Could you hear them on the PA when they're like, we need everybody to calm down and everything? Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah. And it was getting booed over very loudly.
Okay.
And, people throwing stuff and swearing at them. And at that point, and they talk about it in the documentary, like the anger towards the organizers had already kicked in at that point. The price gouging had gotten everybody so ticked off.
And then that's the perfect song to.
Right.
It's just one of those days,
And the thing that still to this day shocks me is, you would think that after Limp Bizkit got off stage and the next band going on stage was Rage Against the Machine, you would think that would be the thing that set off the riot, right?
Yeah.
No. Rage came out. They played an amazing set.
Did they bring the audience back down to like calmer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Zach De La Rocha came out and realized like what was going on, and he like pulled the crowd in with like talking about the serious issues. And if you listen to Rage Against the Machine's music, like, it's very heavily social issue lyrics. And he pulled the crowd in talking about that, and then put on just an absolutely amazing show. And like, I still like get goosebumps. Like, I've gone back and I've watched some of that performance on YouTube and stuff, and like, I still get goosebumps watching him sing Freedom. It was just like one of the most powerful musical moments of my life. and to be there with the energy and everything that had already happened that night, and like how insane things had been, like to see him, and he was just laying on the ground, literally like kicking and screaming into his mic. Freedom! It was so powerful, but that didn't make people want to go destroy things.
Yeah, it seems because they didn't even cover that really.
Right.
Because they're like, oh, Limp Bizkit does this, and it's like, well, Rage and Metallica play next. I go,
And then,
It was-
right.
you know.
So, like, after that, the rest of the night, the music was unreal. So Rage Against the Machine came out and put on an incredible set. And then Metallica was awesome. And so, for me, 19-year-old kid, who that three bands right there, that was the key of my weekend, that was perfect. I loved it. I had so much fun. The music was incredible. Me and my friend were having, we were literally, like, holding each other, being like, can you believe we're here right now?
Yeah.
It was just amazing.
Now, do you believe that Fred Durst deserves any blame for anything that went on there? Because I know that the people that run it believe that he did, and I go, I don't know.
I mean, you know who Fred Durst is?
I don't think they
Like,
did.
Yeah, so like they should have known who Fred Durst was. Like, it's like, should Fred Durst encourage people to break things? Probably not.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, here's the other thing, though. Say he doesn't play that song. People would have been pissed. That was one of their biggest hits.
Right.
You know.
And even, no matter whether it was that song or another song, it was going to happen during that set. Even if he didn't specifically yell for people to break stuff. Limp Bizkit's just an angry band.
Yeah.
Like, that was the draw of their music. It's good, angry music. It's stuff to get you fired up. Stuff. It was going to get people fired up, and everyone was already pissed off. So something was going to happen with any band that's going to come out and get you fired up.
No, I 100% agree there. I go, you can't blame Limp Bizkit for being Limp Bizkit.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You can't blame Limp Bizkit for doing what they do, for playing their music, especially when there's so many other factors that you could very easily point the finger at.
Now, the rest of day 2, I know Fatboy Slim has the rave, but you're off in town at this point. Did your friends go in at all, or?
No, so my friends tried really hard to sleep through the rave, and were not successful. We were all, 18, 19, 20. None of us did drugs. We had no interest in going into the rave. We didn't like that kind of music anyway.
Who even thought that was a good idea? Like, they're like, you just had this huge concert, and I mean huge concert. You send everybody to bed.
Right.
Or if they want to stay up and do their own thing, fine, but you just gave them an excuse to keep partying.
Exactly.
And bad stuff happened there, as was covered. Now we go into day 3. This is it. Haven't showered. You got to be exhausted. Done the best you could to sleep. What's going on with day 3? And this is where really all hell breaks loose.
So day 3, at some point during Saturday night, some of the outside fence had gotten taken down. And so day 3 was just this bizarre mix of people leaving the festival early, and people who didn't pay just showing up and coming in. And we, like you said, we were exhausted. We did the same we did the past few days, which is forage for food and shade and try to stay cool. I almost lost a pair of shoes trying to walk through the mud area. And those shoes ended up in the trash anyway.
Yeah.
Because, like we said, we realized what that mud was. And we were just at this point, it was just survival mode to get out. It was like, okay, we shut off pretty much all emotions, and we're just like, all right, we're here. We got a couple more bands we want to see. Let's just make it through. And then I don't remember everybody we saw that day, but I remember the end of the night was Red Hot Chili Peppers on the main stage, and Megadeth was on the other stage. And there had been rumors going around all weekend, and they addressed this as well in the
A surprise.
that there was a big surprise that was going to be on the main stage.
Oh, man.
So the rumor we had heard was that Guns N' Roses was going to be there, and we were rock guys. We were like, oh yeah.
And they're broken up at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And
So there would have been
it would have been huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were all fired because if I remember correctly, they played at Woodstock '94.
I'd have to look at the line. I know Green Day was 100% there.
Yeah,
But I can't remember. Yeah.
And so we were like, oh, this would be awesome. So some of our friends wanted to go see Red Hot Chili Peppers. Me and Dave wanted to go see Megadeth. We're like, all right, cool. We'll meet you over at like the corner of the vendor stands after the show. So we go over. Dave and I are hanging out with like a really chill group of Megadeth fans. There's probably a couple thousand of us. And everyone's exhausted. So we're just like, yeah, good show. This is awesome. And Megadeth's putting on a good show. And then middle of a song, a yellow light comes on the back of the stage. And they just stop playing. And Dave Mustaine gets on the mic and goes, hey guys, sorry, we got to go.
But on this side, it's calm.
Yeah, everybody's chill.
Okay.
Everybody's chill. Everybody at Megadeth
Yeah.
was chill.
Yeah.
And so everybody's just kind of like, what happened? And again, nobody got mad. Nobody's like throwing things at the stage. The entire audience just kind of stood up and went, all right, well, I guess we'll go to the main stage. So we turn and we're walking towards the main stage. And by this point, the fires had started over at the main stage and stuff had started getting really crazy. Someone had drove a car into the middle of the crowd.
Oh, God.
And it got flipped over and lit on fire.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
And we hadn't seen any of that because we were having a nice time over hanging out with Megadeth. And so we come walking back and we get to the vendor stand and there's a guy going, hey, free, and he's just tossing waters out. I'm like, oh, cool. We've been paying $8 for waters all week. Yeah, let's grab a couple of waters. Yeah, they must not want to like lug it back to their truck at the end of the day, is what I'm thinking. Little did I realize that I was looting. So hopefully the statute of limitations is run on that. Yeah. So I accidentally looted, and then Dave and I came around the corner, and it was like, you ever watch the show Community?
Oh yeah, love it.
You know that scene when he comes into the party and he's got the pizzas and like someone's on fire on the floor, and it was like that. We came around the corner with like all these bottles of water and looked up. And there were just fires burning everywhere. And we're just like,
what happened?
There are naked people dancing around fires. People are breaking down the tower. At this point, they're trying to pull the tower down. And we're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Luckily, we were able to find our friends, share some of our stolen water. And we're like, okay, guys, so what's the plan? And we're like, well, we should probably pack up. It's like, all right. So we pack up our stuff. We bring it to the van. And we just kind of pulled our van over to like the edge of the hill, kind of looking down on the Air Force Base. And we sat up there. And from where we were sitting, the main stage was over here. Concessions was over there. And then like the 18-wheeler tractor trailers were over there. So we're watching everything go on at the main stage. We see the tower come down. We see people dancing, making fires bigger and stuff. We see a bunch of fights break out all over the place. And then one of the 18-wheelers explodes. And it catches the 18-wheeler next to it on fire. And then a minute later, that one explodes. And it literally goes down the line like this.
Do you feel like you're far away enough from it that you like feel safe, or?
Yeah, so that was exactly it. We were like, we're far enough away that we can sit here and watch this and feel safe.
Okay.
But we're also close enough to this that we've like completely disassociated from reality. Like we feel like we're in a movie at this point. Like it feels like the end of Fight Club. Like that's what we're watching, and we're just like watching these trucks explode and thinking to ourselves like we're probably never going to see anything like this again.
Yeah.
And so we're hanging out there and like kind of deciding, do we want to leave? Do we want to stay and watch? And it was right about then that the airplane hangars opened up and the riot police on ATVs started coming out, followed by lines of riot police on foot. And they were literally just clubbing people as they drove by. Like, doesn't matter what the person was doing, they were just clubbing them. And we could see this off like far enough away that we could see what was going on. And we just went, it's time to go. And we got into our van and we drove to like a Denny's.
Oh, really?
And ate. And it felt very much like that scene at the end of Avengers when they're in the shawarma restaurant and they're all just sitting there like, That was us at Denny's that night after surviving our 3 days at Woodstock '99.
How far away was the Denny's? Was it a good ways?
It was probably like a 45-minute or an hour drive to get there. And by the time we got there, it was super late. I'm sure they were like, who are these disgusting creatures rolling into our building at 2 a.m?
Yeah, that's wild. What a crazy scene, yeah, because I've seen the photos, but to actually be there is just absolutely wild.
Yeah, and my wife kept asking me as we were watching the documentary, she's like, you were there, like, would you do this again? And without hesitation, I was like, absolutely. Like, all the things that you're talking about are terrible, absolutely happening, were completely terrible. But the music was unbelievable.
That's why you're there.
Exactly.
So do you believe they got it right with the documentary, or?
I would have liked to see a little bit more about how good the music was, because they definitely got it right about all the things that went wrong and really who's to blame, which is the organizers. But there was some incredible music, and there were some good moments throughout the weekend.
Well, they didn't even mention that, you're telling me, Megadeth is playing and there's nothing wrong over there.
Right.
No one talks about that.
Yeah, like, and that was the part that was so funny. It's like the bands that you would think would start trouble weren't the troublemakers. Rage Against the Machine and Megadeth were the calm bands.
What do you think the legacy of Woodstock is after that? Probably never another one, or you think it could? I know the head guy has passed away.
I wish that we could see another one, but I just don't see it happening. I think, just look at all the other music festivals that fail every year without being tied to the Woodstock name, like Fire Festival and, all those, you hear nightmare stories about those all the time. With that and how poorly Woodstock '99 went, I can't imagine someone doing it again.
No, and music's changed too. Like I feel like I'm becoming a grumpy old man because I'm just like, man, everything on the radio. I'm like, it's rare that I hear something that I'm like, man, that's good. You get the cheap pop stuff that sometimes you're like, but then I hear a lot of stuff and I go, this is just. I don't think I've liked the song until the new Blink-182 song, but that's just because I'm stuck in the past. I'm like, oh, it's Tom and Mark back together again, I got a bunch of questions. We got some time. I do want to get into blank versus blank. We'll probably go through these a little bit quick. My buddy Rob asked, we call him Crayon Dude. He's from Seattle. He's part of the 4 families of wrestling podcasters. Are you a Winnipeg Jets fan?
Not really. My roller hockey team has been some form of either the Coyotes or the Jets for like 20 years.
Okay, because he was definitely going off the pitch here.
Absolutely.
Who's your favorite all-time hockey player?
Sergei Fedorov.
Oh, okay. All right. He asked this. He's a wrestling guy like myself. Do you have a favorite pro wrestler?
I don't. I never get into wrestling.
Okay.
So I apologize.
Fair enough. Sorry, Crayon Dude. We're trying here. Have you ever scored a hat trick?
Yes, and almost always it's because my teammates are incredibly nice.
They just give it to you.
Exactly. They're like, look, he looks so sad over by the net. Let's pass it to him.
I got to ask this, and I assume this is not much different from beer league softball, but he wants to know what's beer league hockey.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the average Joe hockey. It's just a shorthand for, we're not making it to the NHL. We're just here to have fun and drink some beer with our friends.
Now, do you play on the ice? Are you on foot? Or because I know you said you're a commissioner of a league too.
Yeah, so I do play ice hockey. Not well. I'm like a D-League level skater. And I run with a handful of friends of mine. We run a roller hockey league out of Hood Park in Derry.
Okay.
We've been doing that for 15 years now.
Oh, wow.
It's a small rink. We do 3-on-3 with goalies. It's roller hockey. So it's really fast-paced. And it's a ton of fun.
Nice. Now I'm the league president of softball for one league. Steve runs my social sports. Yep. Is there anybody you've ever had to been like, you're done, you're out of here?
Yeah, that's always the tough part. Luckily, we've been able to get to the point where the guys who we want done realize it before we have to say anything.
You're not in the
and
in
they're
crowd
like, you know what? Yeah, no, this isn't for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Have you suffered any hockey injuries?
Yeah. I've probably broken over 30 bones.
Oh, wow.
Mostly like fingers and toes. Biggest ones were my orbital bone, collarbone, ankle, and one of the bones on my foot. I actually had to have surgery on that. That one was no fun.
Yeah, I got a metal plate in my ankle. Anything down there, when when I tore my rotator cuff, it was like, fine, I can deal with this. Crutches are the worst.
Crutches are the absolute worst.
So he wants to know, are you a fan of the Mighty Ducks movies?
I am going to admit something that horrifies people. I have never seen the Mighty Ducks movies.
I have seen them only once. I was dating this girl that didn't work out. It was only a couple dates in. She's like, "You never seen the Mighty Ducks?" I'm like, "Nah, I was a Sandlot kid. I don't know. That's what I enjoyed." She's like, "You got to watch these." So that was the only time I've seen them. Favorite NFL team?
Patriots.
New England guy.
Grew up as a Patriots fan. I always love to tell the story when people are like, "Oh yeah, you're a Patriots fan." Yeah. No. Like, I was actually a Patriots fan. Like, even before they were good. My dad was a huge Patriots fan in the 80s, and me and my mom would go into Boston around Christmas time and be like, "Oh, can we buy a Patriots hat?" And we would literally get laughed out of the store. People were like, "Yeah, no, we don't sell those."
Which is so
in
weird.
Boston,
Still,
because they were so bad back
Yeah.
then. I remember going to the last game of Bledsoe's rookie year. I think they were 1-14 going into the game and playing against Miami. They won. They knocked Miami out of the playoffs. That was the only thing. They went to overtime. Bledsoe threw a touchdown. They won. I'm getting hugged by random strangers. I think I was 12 years old at the time. I'm getting like hugged by random strangers. Like, you would have thought they won the Super Bowl. So I remember the crappy Patriots, and then I also got spoiled with the Brady Patriots. So
Those were good years. I just remember Bledsoe getting drafted, but I honestly can say, like, my football probably started maybe after that. Like, I remember that, but I was always a baseball kid, and I just wanted to watch the Atlanta Braves or the Red Sox, and that was pretty much it. And
Chipper
now it's
Jones
like,
back in the day, man.
I was even before that. 92 was like, the 92
yeah.
Braves was like, it's weird.
Tom Glavine.
Glavine was on the team. Sid Bream, Terry Pendleton, Jeff Blauser, Greg Olson, David Justice. That was the first team I ever, because you couldn't watch, the Red Sox weren't good either.
Right.
And you had to pay for Nesson.
Yeah.
But we'd watch the Braves on TBS every week.
That was why I was a Sergei Fedorov fan growing up, because I had to watch something other than the Bruins to watch hockey, because the Bruins were terrible in the mid-'90s. So I'd watch that horrible game and then be like, okay, I'm going to watch the Red Wings game too, because that's entertaining hockey.
How far we've come.
Exactly.
Favorite TV show?
Current or like of all time?
I think all time. That's usually what we go with.
The early 2000s remake of Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
If you're a sci-fi guy, it is awesome.
Dwight Schrute's favorite show. Yeah. Is there something you're watching right now? Some people like the,
Yeah.
recommendations.
So things that I've watched recently. So I'm terrible. I'm still catching up on things. I just watched Moon Knight, which I loved. Finished season 4 of Stranger Things, and I'm currently working my way through both She-Hulk and Andor.
Okay.
So She-Hulk is absolutely hilarious.
Is it a comedy or?
It's kind of a comedy in so much as She-Hulk's another character that breaks the fourth wall, like Deadpool does.
Oh, okay.
So there's like a little bit more of that humor in it. And I mean, Marvel just does comedy stuff pretty well. So
Very
it's
cool.
entertaining.
I got to watch Stranger Things. That's like on my, but I have to start from the beginning because I haven't never like, seen it. But that's I'm a big horror movie fan, as you can see.
Yeah.
I think it fit me well.
Absolutely.
Halloween costume this year. You did anything for Halloween?
So this year for Halloween, I'm going as a Jedi.
Okay.
We went to Disney, and I drank too many blue milks and made bad financial decisions, and so I came home with a custom lightsaber and Jedi robes.
Hey, perfect. And he wants to know this again. He's from Washington State. What's your favorite state in the U.S.?
New Hampshire, absolutely.
Yeah, Crayon Dude, that's what we're going with.
Washington is one of the few states that I've visited that I've said, if I didn't live in New England, I could live here.
All right, now I want to do blank versus blank real quick. We got some time. I'm just going to give you two things. You got to pick one and tell me why.
Right.
We'll have some Woodstock related stuff here. Limp Bizkit or Korn?
Korn. Staying power. Limp Bizkit was very much a band of that moment. Like, that anger. Korn, like, I'll still listen to, like, break stuff when I'm having a bad day or something.
Yeah.
But Korn's music definitely is something you can listen to more often than you would a Limp Bizkit.
I still love Life is Peachy. Love it.
Oh yeah,
love that album. Two that played back to back, and I think I know your answer because of how excited you were about one of them. Rage Against the Machine or Metallica?
that's a tough one, but I do have to say Rage Against the Machine. Metallica is one of my other favorite bands. Grew up absolutely loving and adoring all of their early albums. But, man, Rage Against the Machine, so powerful.
Do you think, because you're still pretty young when Metallica debuts, right?
Oh, yeah. My introduction to Metallica was around Ride the Lightning.
Okay.
I didn't listen to Kill 'Em All until probably like the early 90s.
Okay.
I think that came out in 85 or 84. So Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets were the first two albums that I really got into.
Because it would make sense, because it'd be like Rage was more your age group, because when they were exploding.
Exactly. Like Rage started to get huge in like 93, 94, which is, I think their debut album maybe came out in 92. And that was like right when I was getting into junior high and high school. That's right when my musical taste started to peak. And I've always loved how strongly they speak on the social aspects when they're writing lyrics. It's all powerful, and I love the way that they do it.
Yeah, I never really heard a band like that, but I was so young that I didn't understand even what they were talking about. My number one band will always be, it's never changing, Sublime. That's who I loved as you said, got into. And I think now that Blink-182 is one of them as well, because you're right, middle school is like you don't really forget what you listened to then.
I always talk to my dad about music and like genres and ages and stuff like that, because he's been around listening to music much longer than I have, listened to more kinds. And he and I have both agreed that like the 93 to 98 or like 92 to 97 time frame was probably the best 5 years in rock and roll history. If you look at the bands that came out and were either at the top of their game at the time or were just coming out at that time, like the quality and quantity of just awesome music, and all over genres, like classic
hip-hop.
rock,
Yeah.
hip hop, rock, like everything. There was so much good music in that time frame.
Yeah, I miss the 90s.
Right?
I wouldn't mind to live it as an adult, but just see what it was like then. But would you rather play ice hockey or floor hockey?
Ice hockey over floor hockey. Floor hockey is, of the three hockeys, my least favorite.
Okay.
I'm not a big runner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Old and the joints hurt the more I run.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer to skate.
No, I can't skate to save my life. Like it's scary. I need to practice that a little bit more. Football or baseball? What would you rather watch?
Football. I like baseball, but it's a little too slow for me to watch if I'm not there. Like I'll go to a game and enjoy it, or I'll have it on in the background while I'm doing something else. But if I'm gonna like sit down and pay attention, I'd rather watch football.
No, I agree. And as I've gotten older, that's really what has kind of happened. I'm like, I couldn't even tell you how many Red Sox games I watched this year.
I think I watched like 5. And
Yeah.
they were all like on in the background.
Yeah, it's not even because they were bad. It's just, it's just what
Right.
it is what it is. Here's one that I'm curious to see what you'll say. Michael Jackson or Prince?
Prince. Absolutely. I love the funk aspect of Prince's music.
Because I ask this one a lot because I always compare the two. No one's you're the first to take Prince.
Ah, all right.
So the streak, the Michael Jackson streak, is now over. Here's a candy one I love to ask. Skittles or Starburst?
Ooh, my wife's going to be really upset with me for this one, but I prefer Starburst. My wife's a big Skittles fan, but I like Starburst, especially the pink ones.
Yeah, but yeah, I actually have some in my center console right now that I didn't, The one thing I'll say about Skittles, though, they brought back lime.
Yes. I like the lime better than the green apple.
Yeah, I didn't understand. Are people into green apple? Could you imagine a green apple Starburst? That'd be disgusting.
Ugh. See, I like the green apple Jolly Ranchers, though.
Okay, yeah, they got a little more tang.
But
to them.
I don't want green apple mixed in with my citrus fruit. That's just weird.
No, it doesn't make any. They should have got in trouble for that. I really
Absolutely.
do believe that. I don't know if you're a horror movie guy, but I'm gonna ask this. We just had Halloween Kills come out, which I will be dropping a review on that on the live stream at some point. I've watched it now twice. I'm still a little frustrated, but would you rather see Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger? Or Jason, if you wanted to.
I'd go with Jason just for the hockey mask.
Nice. I'm a big fan of them all. Now, final question, blank versus blank, maybe the toughest one. What do you enjoy more, being the commissioner or just playing?
Just playing. I love being the commissioner because it has allowed me to meet so many wonderful people and make so many great friends and build such lasting relationships. But if I'm like picking, do I want to be the commissioner for an evening or play a pickup game? Just going out and playing the game for the love of the game is my favorite.
Awesome, awesome. All right, Mike, well, I really appreciate coming on. This was a blast. We really wanted to cover
me.
that, so I really appreciate taking the time. Everybody out there, have a wonderful week, and until next time, let freedom ring.